Good evening, Honorable Consul General, Navrathanji, distinguished guests, fellow board members, chamber members, and friends. For those of you that don't know me, my name is Neil Gonaguntla, and I had the pleasure of serving as the president of the chamber for the last 7 years and recently stepped down, but I've joined the board, so I continue to serve the organization in a new capacity. I just wanted to start off by saying it is so nice to see all of you in person today. You look absolutely amazing, you're dressed to the nines, and it's very fitting for this beautiful venue, the Crow Museum of Asian Art at the University of Texas at Dallas. I want to extend my humble gratitude to the Crow team and to Mr. Crow and to the University of Texas at Dallas for allowing us to host our event here so that we could actually have a lovely background for today's program and conversation. As second-generation Americans of Indian heritage, growing up and living in America, we relate to our heritage in different ways. Food, of course, festivals, art and culture through our clothes, thanks to the extraordinary Indian handloom industry, and entertainment, the ever-famous Bollywood, which has set the musical score to so many of our lives. So tonight, to highlight all of these different mediums through which we connect to and celebrate our roots as Indian Americans, we wanted to share this evening for that purpose. Though we may appear similar, eating our samosas and drinking our chai, we probably couldn't be more unique or varied in our expression. Though we may dress alike, we probably speak different languages. And our host committee wanted us to be reminded of just how unified and yet diverse we are in our Indian American experience and expression by displaying the uniqueness of our origins on the map that you all pinned as you walked in today. From Kashmir in the north to Kerala in the south, the map next to me displays the extraordinary variety of Indian cultural heritage that we all bring to our American experience as individuals in North Texas. Whether we realize it or not, each of us engaging in our cultural heritage in our own unique way serves as an ambassadorship, deepening ties between the United States and India. We are grateful to have the Consul General here and our partners from the Consulate General of India with us who helped us to put this program together. And I think they can attest to the fact, as the Consul General just said, that we are all a part of this ambassadorship and this diplomacy between the two countries. I want to extend my thanks to Yasmin Arya, Consul Sandeep Chaudhary, and Ravi. I don't see him, but they have been extraordinary partners along with Sri Lakshmi and others from the consulate team in putting this event together. While we may appear similar to some and different to others, as I mentioned before, we're always reminded that there is always unity in our diversity as Indian Americans, and the U.S.-India Chamber of Commerce's YEP platform is one platform seeking to unify the next generation of entrepreneurs and professionals of Indian heritage. The U.S.-India Chamber of Commerce's vision to create a platform where the next generation of Indian Americans can dynamically engage with each other and with India through trade and investments as entrepreneurs and professionals has certainly come alive tonight. And we appreciate the partnership of the consulate, as I mentioned, because without you, we couldn't do what we do. Trade and investment continues to serve as some of our greatest diplomatic tools in furthering the economic partnership we have with India and strengthening economic development locally here in North Texas, the dual mission of the Chamber. Tonight's panel is going to inform us of how second generation and third generation Indian American entrepreneurs and investors are deepening those bonds right here in the United States through technology, art, food, and consumer goods. Moderating our panel is Sean Minter. Sean is the founder and CEO of Amplify AI. He is a successful serial entrepreneur who has started and led multiple companies to exit over the last 20 years. He is actively engaged in the Texas startup ecosystem and serves on the board of the Blackstone Launchpad at the University of Texas at Dallas, the Executive Council at the University of Texas Johnson School of Engineering, and is an active member, mentor, and investor with the Dallas Capital Factory. Joining our panel, along with Sean, is Ron Nag, founder and CEO of Medcognetics, Gauri Sharma, an entrepreneur and civic leader in the arts, Nathan Kondamuri, the co-founder of Pear Eyewear, and Kamini Mamdani, the founder of Chai.com. Will all of our panelists please join us on the stage? And as they are coming up, can we please welcome Ms. Janie Schultz, Dallas City Councilwoman from the northern part of Dallas, and she'd like to offer a few words as our panelists are coming up.
Please forgive me for being so late. I was at a neighborhood meeting, so you'll forgive me. I just want to say, I wish you could see yourselves from here. You are gorgeous. You look amazing. And I really want to thank Neil for including me. And Neil has really been a part of helping us envision the Dallas International District, which will bring in all foreign consulates, trade offices, celebration of cultures through our park and the businesses that'll be there. So you'll be hearing a lot more about that, but I just wanted to thank you so much for including me.
All right. Thank you, everybody, for attending. And what a great location and place for the event. And appreciate the U.S. Indian American Chamber to have this event with us. And for all the distinguished guests, obviously, attending. It was very great to meet everybody. So we're going to go through a panel here talking to second-generation Indian American entrepreneurs. And we'll start with just everybody introducing themselves. So why don't we start with you, Ron?
Hi, I'm Ron Nag. I'm the CEO of Medcognetics. This is a digital health startup that is working with the UT system to work on early cancer detection and diagnosis. And we're deploying all over the world, and we actually started our research and development in India. So it's been a wonderful journey from there.
All right, Nathan.
Hi, everybody. I'm Nathan Kondamuri, and I'm the co-founder and co-CEO of Pear Eyewear, where our team and I are on a mission to create a global eye care company that provides accessible and affordable and personalized eye care to everybody around the world. We've been running the company for about 4 years, are 90 people across the country, and are excited about the opportunity to go to India one day.
Awesome. Gauri?
Hi, I'm Gauri Sharma. I'm an architect by education, and right now my husband and I, we have a real estate and investment company, and I am here representing the arts in Dallas.
Kamini.
Hi, I'm Kamini Mamdani, and I'm the founder of Chai.com. It's a D2C retail company online, and would you like us to talk about our family history?
Yeah, we can start with going through who we are and our history of how we got here.
Yeah. So I'm a first generation American, born and raised in South Africa, and my grandparents moved in the 1800s from Gujarat to South Africa, and had a business there, and eventually moved to the United States. And throughout our journey from South Africa to the United States, one thing that held us together was our customs and our culture. And that is sort of why I decided to start the business of selling selling chai, to share the culture that is very important to me.
So Gauri, how about your history? How did you get to it?
Well, my history starts, I was born in India and I was raised in Canada. And, you know, my father was a pragmatist. He said, get a job, get educated, get a job, be a professional. And my mom brought the arts in our life. Like she was a Veena player. We used to do crafts at home, and that's really kind of, art exists in all different forms, and that's kind of the art in my life as a child. And it wasn't really until I lived in India briefly, and then I moved to Texas, and it wasn't until my high school that I had formal art education through a teacher. I always remember our favorite teachers, and he brought art alive for me and really kind of connected art to the bigger world and what the power of art can do. So I took, his inspiration and eventually became an architect. So I pleased my dad and my mom. But I was eventually found myself back in the arts world, first just experiencing all the arts in Dallas, and then now more as a patron of the arts. And collecting, and we'll talk more about those things.
Yep.
So.
Awesome. Nathan?
Yeah, so my journey here has been an exciting one. I am originally from Northwest Indiana, right outside of Chicago. I'm a second generation Indian American. My parents moved to the Chicago suburbs from India. Grew up in a pretty typical Indian household with two doctor parents, where they always instilled a sense of hard work and doing good for the world. And unfortunate to them, I did not go the medical route, but ended up going to Stanford, where I studied mechanical engineering, and eventually made my way back to sort of the medical space, where came up with the idea for personalized eye care from my own experience of wearing glasses my entire life, and remembering how, as a child, wearing glasses is this really difficult experience. And I always remember hating my glasses, and glasses is very stigmatized in today's world, and so kids are bullied. And then you fast forward to being an adult, and the same experience kind of exists. The glasses are very expensive, they're pretty unengaging, unlike every other experience in your life, like your shoes and your clothes and the way we all look really beautiful here and are excited about that. Glasses just didn't have that. And so we brought people a much more exciting way to experience eye care, where people could just swap on and off what we call a top frame to change the look and design of your glasses. So I could rock a burgundy pair one day, or even turn glasses into prescription sunglasses, all with an easy snap. So really just our goal is to bring joy to people in their everyday life through their glasses. Really fun thing I'd love to talk about at some point today is we brought Van Gogh's art to the eyewear. So it's been a really exciting journey getting to this place.
Right. Ron?
Great. So for me, I was born in Canada, raised in the States, mostly in Chicago and Detroit area. And in my typical Bengali household, you had only 4 career choices. You could be an engineer or doctor or engineer, you pick. So my brother became the cardiologist, and I started off my career in engineering, but then quickly moved into management and then also healthcare. So I had executive stints at Texas Instruments and DaVita Kidney Care, where I ran their business for North Texas and Louisiana. But the background for me on the family side was I had 2 educators, 2 professors that were researchers, especially my father, who was an American Heart Association researcher. And as I got into looking at more entrepreneurial roles, as I left some of the technology and healthcare spaces, one of the things I was working on is how we can combine the amazing abilities we have in North Texas from University of Texas at Dallas in technology and the amazing clinical and case study capability we have at UT Southwestern. And I can never forget the day that I was going down to what I call South Campus, UT Southwestern, and as an Indian kid, parents trying to give advice on the way out the door, he said, my research never saw the light of day. If you can combine these things and bring it out to do good, that would be a great thing. So I pitched about 9:30, 10 o'clock in the morning, and I got the initial, sponsored research agreement. He passed away 11 o'clock that night. So as a journey and that legacy, and also the other part of my legacy in my family is both my parents were part of the Ramakrishna mission. And so, Swami Vivekananda used to say that a smile and service to your community takes you closer than any prayer or puja to God. And so trying to balance that together and bring something that can be innovative but help the community and community across the world is what's driving us today.
Well, that's great. Thanks, Ron. So my family's from Indore and Bhopal. So my mom was from Indore, my dad was from Bhopal, and I've lived here most of my life, but they live next door to me now. But we go to India fairly often to visit our family, but they actually bought a place in Goa. So they're here 9 months out of the year, they're in Goa 3 months out of the year. So it's actually easy for me to get our kids to think about going to India more, because we get to go to a nice place. But one thing, as somebody mentioned when they were talking earlier, was how do we connect people here, especially as more generations go by, with our culture and things like that in India? Because it becomes hard. I think about that myself, right? Food is easy. Art is another way of doing it. But if somebody has a secret of getting them to like Bollywood movies at the next generation, that would be amazing. That's a big money right there. So So let's talk about chai.com, company. So how did you come up with this idea? How long has it been going on? Tell us the story.
So I actually started it in 1997 when I was in graduate school for occupational therapy. And at that time, the internet was just in its infancy, and online businesses were also just starting to happen. And at the same time, Starbucks was expanding and growing, and chai was considered the newest rage, so it was called chai tea lattes. And it was an Americanized version of a drink that we love so dearly in my family. And it's part of our daily ritual. It's something that centers us every day. And I looked at my mom and I said, we've got to provide something that's authentic, that comes from a South Asian family. And so my husband helped me put together a quick business online. And I literally hand ground spices with my mom in her kitchen back in 1997. And then, as a journey of a female entrepreneur, there's always, nothing is linear. And so I had a professional career, I had a family, and so I put the business on hold for a bit. And just recently, during the pandemic, decided to relaunch the business and rebrand it and create a product that is authentic to who we are, but also simplify the process for people. And so during Diwali of 2021, I relaunched chai.com. Yeah.
That's great. Nice journey. We'll get into a little more detail about where the chai comes from in a second. So Gary, tell us about the art market, Indian art, like how do people get involved with that? How do you value it? Tell us
There's a lot to
about
talk about there. So the art market, if you talk about it as a market, is a vibrant economic force like any other marketplace. I mean, the Dallas city just had the Dallas Art Fair, and if you were to walk in there, there's commerce going on in all ways. And the thing about with art is. It's an investment. It's kind of based on a predicted, like a prediction model. So it is kind of art is kind of there is a cost for the actual kind of making of the art and supporting the artist, but it really is like something that people buy what they love. At the end of the day, you buy what you love. And Ron was talking earlier how he buys art when you travel. I mean, it's something that tells your story to your family, to yourself, and it's something that you just live with. And it is everywhere. It could be in your classes, like you said. So there is always commerce in art, but there's also just a lot of just enjoyment in art, just to kind of go to like a museum and enjoy that as well. As far as India is concerned, like they have also their art fair, the Kochi Biennale, which is a phenomenal way to kind of go see art. So when next time, if you can arrange your trips to India around that, there's a literary festival. So it's a vibrant scene also in India. And so there's a lot of back and forth as well with institutions and galleries supporting artists and the dialogue. And there's also diplomacy also involved in that. So for example, the DMA is doing a Cartier and Islamic art exhibit, which is their blockbuster hit coming up starting in May. And it was 4 years in the making of travel, conversations, details, and it really is a coming together of different cultures and telling the narratives. And that's kind of like where I find I'm in a unique position now with the Dallas Museum of Art, is to be able to have those multiple narratives and to be able to tell our stories amongst all the very many stories that Dallas has, because we are a very complex city with a lot of diversity, and it really has to be reflected in the arts.
That's great. For those of you who don't know, Gary will be the president of the Dallas Museum of Art soon, so congratulations. And if we want to see more Indian art, according to her when I was asking her, in places we have to participate, because the way these environments look at it is, if the more cultural people there are visiting the museums, the more they will cater to the cultures that come.
Absolutely.
So we want to see more Indian art, we should all become members of the Dallas Museum of Art,
members,
right?
They know where, they know who's coming to the museum. And
Yep.
when we
And this
come,
one,
when
yeah,
we
exactly.
show up, we can also kind of ask for what we want to see. And so, it's a dialogue, absolutely.
Yep, exactly.
And,
the
of
crowd.
course, and
Yes.
this is part of the ecosystem that we
Yeah.
have here.
Yeah.
Oh, well,
So Nathan, about moving into your organization, right? So where do you sell your products? Where do they come from? Tell us a little bit about Pair Eyes.
Yeah, absolutely. So we currently are an online eye care company. So we sell glasses to you and have them at your door in under a week. And so it's e-commerce. We've actually brought all of the manufacturing in-house, the majority of it, here in the US. And so we do all of our manufacturing out of a facility in California. So we're vertically integrated, and that's essentially our goal, is to be able to expand what we've done here in the US with our manufacturing and localizing that in communities, creating jobs in California, and take that to the entire world. I think one thing that we recognize with the eye care market is that it's massive. It's a $140 billion global eye care market. Unfortunately, people's eyes are getting much worse. It's expected to be $280 billion in the next 5 years. 1 in every 2 people are going to need glasses. And so our goal and our mission is to really expand the accessible, affordable, personalized eye care experience to the entire world and provide it to places that have never had access to eye care and vision care so quickly. So one thing that we've done early on and was really important to myself and my co-founder was really being able to do good within the community as a for-profit company. And so one thing we established early on was a nonprofit partnership where for every pair of glasses that we sell, we provide a pair of glasses to somebody who doesn't have access to vision care in a variety of different global countries. And so we've done some of that work in India, and we've done some of that work in various countries in Africa, and even here in the US in communities that don't have access. So when we look towards expansion, we want to be able to expand our vertically integrated supply chain to every part of the world and provide that glasses experience to you in under a week. So that's a little bit about where we're headed.
That's great. Awesome. All right, Ron, you have a lot of business currently in India, so tell us about how that works.
Well, yeah, actually, India has been very pivotal for us. When we started MedCognetics, it came out of technology from UTD and then got incubation of cases and great clinical care from UT Southwestern. But in this new age of data, and artificial intelligence, and if I'm here from Texas and now officially a Texan, data is the new oil. You have to know where to find it, how to pull it out of the ground. When you get it out of the ground, what kind of oil is it? Then you have to refine it, and then you got to put it in the channel for sale. And that doesn't happen just in North America. It happens all over the globe. So one of the first partners we had was in New Delhi, Mahajan Imaging, and they actually were trained in MD Anderson in Houston, so Texas roots again. And the first thing Vidur Mahajan told me was, Ron, there's technology around the world that is being built with a bias, meaning that they're trained with one set of patients and it doesn't work in another country. In modern day, if you had a Tesla that only understood a red octagon as a stop sign and it was in auto drive mode, it would blow past one in Europe, which is a red circle. And that's what's happening with cancer. In breast cancer also, it presents differently in different ages and different races of women. And we started very early working in India, getting data sets in India, Southeast Asia, and one of the comments made is India is a technological powerhouse, and we're able to build an AI platform with these companies in India. Now we're going to be distributing through our Indian partners into Australia, Brazil, and even right back into the United States in Atlanta and Pennsylvania. So it's a thriving ecosystem, and as we finish our FDA, we're obviously going to deploy, and of course we'll deploy at home first in UT Southwestern. So, and then we're now just kicked off our next project with UT Southwestern and in India for lung cancer screening. So, and our whole point is to catch cancer at its earliest stages, 3 millimeters or less, because especially in India, by the time a lot of women get their mammogram, they're in stage 3 or stage 4 cancer. But at the same time here at UT Southwestern, if you talk to Philip Evans, who runs the Simmons Cancer Center for breast and oncology health, he'll say, Ron, I get patients come in for 10 years religiously getting their mammogram. On their 11th year, they're in stage 3 or stage 4. How did that happen? So these are the type of things we're trying to tackle not only here in Dallas-Fort Worth, but all around the world. And India has been actually a huge engine for us to do that. We can try and deploy, test, and then bring all that knowledge right back to the United States.
That's great. So we talk a lot about, people have the view that maybe India has a large bureaucracy, so it's hard to get done. But here's an example of a company in the US that's deploying first in India while it's waiting to get approval in the United States. I think when it comes to technology and things like that, India works a little bit better than maybe in other industries.
Well, if I may add,
Yep.
one of the big things is anywhere around the world, there's a 10x demand in the number of patients to radiologists, even in India. And India is looking also for ways to leverage and give their workforce, this young workforce, new tools. And they're fully embracing artificial intelligence, machine learning, augmented reality, and many other things. And so they're toe-to-toe with a lot of the U.S. technologies.
So my experience being from a Texas startup, I think we're all from Texas except for Nathan. He's from New York, so he had to show a passport to come down here, I think. But in the Texas startup world, if you think about tech in India, and as we heard from the Consulate General, I have 50 employees in Hyderabad, and I have 100 employees here. Of the 100 employees I have here, 50 are Indian. So the Indian ecosystem here and in India is very widely connected. And nowadays, you look at any tech company, everybody is Indian, right, at the head. So the tech world is really being taken over from an Indian perspective. So as you think about your business, Kamini, so when you go searching for suppliers in India, like how do you go about evaluating them? How do you find them? What's the process?
So, I am a small business, and so that's my perspective. And back in 1997, it was very challenging for me to be able to communicate with suppliers in India. But now things are so much easier, and I'm able to identify manufacturers. I'm able to identify suppliers online. But I think that there's still an opportunity for small businesses on both sides to have some kind of B2B marketplace to make it a little bit easier for small businesses like mine to be able to connect with a farmer in India or an artisan in India. And so I think there's still an opportunity for growth in the B2B marketplace.
So as you find them, even though it's hard to find them, how do you screen them? How do you go about determining the value of their product? Like, as you think about making
A lot of trial and error. Yeah, a lot of trial and error. And, again, as a small business owner, you're communicating directly with owners of other companies. And so communication is a huge factor in being able to make those connections and have a consistent line of communication is really important. And sometimes that's a challenge, but I spent 1.5 years doing this, working on research and development, and I've been able to source things from India pretty successfully.
That's great. So Gauri, how do you think we should, as Indian Americans and just people in general, how should we interact or think about interacting with the arts? How can we get involved?
Well, the good news is we have a head start. We're in a beautiful facility right now.
Yeah.
The art here is phenomenal, and it's been a part of my life, I could say personally, for years. And it's just about getting involved and showing up and becoming members. I mean, some of the institutions are free, but it depends on memberships to keep the doors open for the operations. And it's just about signing up for newsletters. There's a lot going on in this area. There's a very rich, music and art. And then now at UTD, at the Athenaeum, they're going to be bringing art up there as well. So there are plenty of opportunities, and it's about making that time, sharing that with family and friends, making it an experience, and adding that to your life. It definitely makes your life a lot richer when you have beautiful places to go and wonderful experiences to be had with all ages.
Yeah.
So, yes.
That's great. Thank you. So Nathan, you've talked about selling your product, and I think you started here, but what's your vision of expanding into places like India or other markets? What are your thoughts on how, when, and what would it take?
Yeah, it's a great question, Sean. For us, we think all about impact and being able to have impact in various places. And we want to do that quickly. So I think our goal, we currently sell just to the US and Canada, but our goal is to expand to the majority of the global world and global eye care market over the next 3 to 4 years. Yeah. And so we look at expanding into Europe next year, and then Southeast Asia and India in in about 2 years. And the way we want to do it is in a really thoughtful way of vertically integrating. So I think that's one way we've been able to really be different even in the US market. The majority of people outsource their eyewear and the lenses to various parts of the world, but we wanted to put it here to provide the fastest, most affordable eye care experience. So it's glasses at your door really quickly. We're providing tons of jobs in the California market where we put our first facility, and that's what we want to do elsewhere too. We want to create a vertically integrated supply chain in the region of the world that we're in, because we think it'll really help both propel jobs in that area, but also provide a better experience. And I think as the Consul General mentioned, there's digital transformation happening everywhere, and so we think now is an amazing time to be able to provide an online eye care experience that is really new. So other technology we're investing in is online vision exams, and figuring out how we can allow people in rural areas who definitely don't have access to doctors, how can they get eye exams, get prescriptions, and get glasses? Because that's a huge issue right now, and that's what that nonprofit partnership is working on, and that hundreds of millions of people around the world just don't have access to vision care. So they're going without glasses, and glasses is known as one of the biggest points of productivity and money in a person's life, because if you can't see, it's very difficult to do something. So we really think about the mission of providing access to vision care to the entire world as our sort of core true north.
That's great. So Ron, you have customers in India today. How are you doing? What are you learning from them? How will that enable you to market your businesses other places? What's the total size and capability there?
Right. So the customers in India today are actually as sophisticated as the United States. They're trained in Western universities and medical campuses. Our medical director for all of South Asia, Dr. Shilpa Lad, is out of Bombay. Yeah. She trained in Ottawa as well as parts of the States. She's a key opinion leader for Fujifilm radiology equipment. And we're finding out that, the Indian population wants higher touch goods and services, especially in medical, and screening services as well. The three that really come up are lung, breast, as well as hypertension and diabetes. So we've branched into two of the spaces, and we're going to be looking at other areas as well. And it's going really well because not only Bombay and New Delhi, but we also have Pune, where Siemens has a huge hub and working on things, and into South India, Bangalore and all.
That's great. So in my experience in working in India, so our products are sold here today. Dallas Venture Capital, Dr. Bhaskar is one of our venture investors in my business, along with VCs from California and New York. And the way we looked at India in the past was always labor and skill sets and things like that, but given the benefit of the ecosystem of technology that's evolved there, I think it's a really great market. We're actively looking at expanding in there. Dikar and his team in India are helping us figure out how to go there. So one thing that would be definitely beneficial for companies that are here is to figure out how to market in India, because it's such a large growing market, young population, technology savvy. Every tech company in the US with people in India that are helping them need to figure out how to market there. And I think that's an area we're getting some help from some specialists, but I think a lot of companies could figure out how to take products we're selling here and how to easily do that in India. I think that's an area that we could always use some help with. So let's go on to the question kind of for the group. So the ecosystem of, we're all entrepreneurs, right? So how do you think this group, this organization, IOC, how would you want to see this organization help your organization, help entrepreneurs in general? What can the U.S. Indian American Chamber do to help you?
I think for people like me who are starting with small businesses, it would be great to have a place to meet other budding entrepreneurs, have opportunities to just be able to discuss challenges that we might be facing together, similar challenges that we may have. And so if there were maybe perhaps some informal opportunities to gather and share ideas as well.
Perfect. Laurie?
Okay. Well, like as I mentioned earlier, it's good to just get involved. If you don't find art, art finds you. So have an open mind, you'll see it wherever you are, however you live. There's other ways of also getting involved. I got involved by sitting on a board. You can sit on a committee. There's a lot of big corporations. Bring your skill set, just like any other business. There are also job opportunities. The DMA is hiring in all sectors. They need IT people, they need marketing, they need finance, and it's run like any other business. I'm sure all the museums are at some level hiring as well. So look on their websites to see if there's any opportunities. Also, even if I know that we're going to actually give a raffle today for the junior associates for the DMA, and that's a great place to kind of get involved because that's a great place to network. You'll find other entrepreneurs, you'll see other professionals, and so it's a social thing, but it's also like there's this aspect of it that's business as well, and a lot of programs that'll be happening at the museum will also come. So I think it's a good, just sign up for newsletters, see what's happening in the city. And there's a lot the museums can give back to you if you show up and please support. The arts really need it more than ever now. So it just adds a lot to the city and definitely your life as well.
Nathan?
Yeah, I mean, I think what we're doing here is a great example of just how to bring entrepreneurship to the forefront. I think I was mentioning to Neil, wherever she was on the phone last week, about how amazing just the Chamber of Indian Commerce is, and I didn't really even know it existed, and almost spreading the word is almost the first step. Harsh, who I met at a friend's wedding, Aditya's wedding, just told me about this after a couple of weeks, and just sharing that level of entrepreneurship and things that are going on is sort of the first step in my mind. And then I think similar to what Kamini mentioned, that resonated with me in terms of just mentorship and having discussions with other entrepreneurs like you, Sean, and the others up here who've gone through challenges. That's always been the biggest help to me as a young founder who's just started a company out of college who didn't know much, is find people who are 5-10 years ahead of you, learn from them, ask questions, don't feel afraid to ask a question that might sound stupid because there's no stupid question. So really just the mentorship piece and having the discussions around even the challenges in entrepreneurship and being really open and honest and transparent about that. And then I think the other thing is about understanding what the India ecosystem is like, right? Because I think it is a daunting challenge to look at a massive market like India and think, okay, how do we bring manufacturing to India? Where do we even start, right? Here in the US, it's a little easier to comprehend and have a place to start, but with a new market that you don't know so well, where do you begin? Who do you talk to? Like you said, how do you think about marketing and finding consumers in the India ecosystem? So just having the discussions and finding mentors in India to work with is going to be really impactful.
Ron?
Well, I think two things. I've been forever touched at the networking capability that has been provided to me with India, and continuing to open up those networking pathways for entrepreneurs. Even though we're very blessed to have really great traction, but there are places still we want to go to India, in Apollo Health or many other places, or Sloan Kettering. We're definitely trying to go nationwide, or we are working a little bit more with MD Anderson, but this is a wonderful group of people that can provide access. And also, if you believe this is a wonderful set of entrepreneurs, and I'm inspired by their stories, that invest in them. Everybody's raising a round. When does a CEO not raise a round? Never. You're always raising money. And so I'm in a round. I'm sure everybody, you could probably, if someone came up to you with a check, you're not going to turn it away. So, I think it's important that you're seeing people with a lot of passion and belief in bridging both worlds. Give them the access and give them the funding.
That's great. So before we open this up for questions, one last comment. So, yeah. One last comment. So one of the things I think all entrepreneurs would love support from is getting into networks is important from an entrepreneur, right? Because you don't know people, so you know people that know people. We've all built networks being second generation Indian Americans in the US. It's hard for us to understand how to build networks in India. And I think that these organizations help us figure out, because all of us know the opportunity. The the cultural values, the democratic system, the value of intellectual property and things like that exist in India. So we all want to do business in India because of the ecosystem and population and the growth that's going to be there. How can we capitalize on it? How do we access the networks? I think that's the key of something none of us really know how to do. We randomly run into people that can help us. There's not a good process to figure out how to make that happen. I think that would be a good expectation of an output of something we could all use.
We're open to audience Q&A, so if anybody has questions for our panel, you can direct it at Sean, and then he'll direct it to the panel.
Sean and others, can you talk about what each of you had to go through the biggest challenge and whether you overcame of it or you're still working at it?
Sure. I mean, I think maybe a couple of us could answer that, so maybe you could start with that.
Yeah, so again, I think for me the biggest challenge was trying to make connections in India with suppliers. But once I was able to do that, things were much easier. But that's probably was one of the hardest things for me, was to be able to source.
And Ron, since you're doing business in India, maybe you can also...
Yeah, I think getting those connections, there's a lot of, in all honesty, there can be a lot of false starts, dead ends, people with a lot of good intentions but don't have all the capabilities you hope for. So having more connections with local universities, colleges, even the government training institutions would be very, very helpful.
I think for me, it's like walking into a lot of spaces where I was a minority and kind of gaining the confidence that I belong there and that I have something to offer. And also, I feel like I'm in a unique position now to just change the face of what an art museum can be and what art in Dallas in the southern part of the United States. It's an honor to be a part of the museum in this capacity. So I take that that leadership role seriously, and I hope to make all parties proud.
Yeah, I think for me, the biggest challenge was sort of the initial hump of traction and the persistence and perseverance needed to get to that point. I think, Ron was mentioning funding. I think we've gotten 100+ no's in our lifetime of raising capital, but then you kind of get over the hump and we just raised $60 million and it gets easier. And so that level of persistence and perseverance is something that, people don't often share the extreme lows of entrepreneurship, but there are a lot of really hard challenges and tough points that you need to persevere through. And I think that's sort of the biggest lesson for me.
Oh, from my perspective, I would say the biggest challenge of any entrepreneur, especially somebody from Indian origin, because you're always focused on engineering or medical, is learning how to sell something. That's like a skill that's never taught. That's never taught in school, but that's the number one skill you need in entrepreneurship, and nobody ever teaches it. But that's your number one skill, is learning how to sell something. And that was a hard challenge for me. I'm an engineer by degree. I worked in engineering before I became an entrepreneur, and had to learn how to sell just by learning how to sell. Nobody taught me how to do it.
Thank you. Gary, you talked about how more of us can get involved in the arts, and I think all of the panelists have touched on how even though there might have been certain expectations for you from your parents or from family, there's also still this passion for arts and for entrepreneurship and pursuing that. How important would you say it is for us to continue mentoring our own children, and what are some of the avenues in which we can help them to pursue their own passions and personal passions that could potentially turn into something like your own company or impressive leadership in the arts communities?
That's a beautiful question. I mean, it really is. I mean, with all of our jobs, we feel passionate about it. Like, we kind of align. That's the beauty of being an entrepreneur. I think it gives you an opportunity to align your core values or your mission to your work. And I think that in the same vein, I think as an architect, I enjoyed working as an architect, but I could always tell, I really enjoyed, I could live in art all the time. And I think that if you feel it, you have to kind of move towards it. And so, and that's where, if it's a collecting, however you want to do it, there's something for everybody, and there's different ways of interacting with art, and you'll find it out there. And it's just, it just can, like I mentioned, it could add to your life. It's a hobby for a lot of people. For me, it became more than a hobby. So I think if that answers your question.
Well, I think we are running out of time tonight. I know we started a few minutes late because of traffic. So please join me in giving Sean and our panel a big round of applause here. I want to ask our panel to stay up, and we have a few thank yous for you. So if Sanjeev Dayakar, if you wouldn't mind, joining us up here, Sunil, as well, and our host committee members, Preetha Monga, Puneet Gupta, Harsh Agarwal. If you could join us up here to thank our speakers, we'd appreciate it. And while they're doing that, I just wanted to say they've made the case for why the chamber. So as we set out a few years ago to establish the U.S.-India Chamber of Commerce over 20 years ago, and YEP about 10 years ago, this is exactly what we had in mind. We wanted to create this platform that this group represented. Are they ready? Okay, well, join us in thanking our panel, and we'll continue our remarks.